asset side, being, appraising based on real estate comps near you, that for those of us who are buying bigger properties, or those who are striving to buy bigger assets, aren't thinking about it like long term, like this is going to be a commercial play. But with that in mind, and I've always said this, is we have to look at the hotel industry and what they're doing, because short-term rentals are professionalizing just like the hotels are. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cash Flow Positive. My name is Kenny Bedwell, and we have a guest again. I know it's been a while since we've had a guest on the show. I wanted to bring this guest, a special guest that she did all of my branding for the hotel in New Orleans that you guys have been hearing that I've been working on forever. And anyway, so she did an incredible job, gave me a over 60-page document of branding guidelines with logos and text and font, and even down to the specific guest avatar, things that I didn't even think I needed to know that are so important. And guys, I'm telling you, what she has to say is going to help you with how you approach branding and who you're attracting to your property and why that matters. So without further ado, Steph Weber, welcome to the show. Tell us more about yourself.
Oh, well, Kenny, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here today. Yeah, so I'll give you guys kind of quick background on my story and how I got into this crazy world of short-term rentals and boutique hotels right alongside all of you. So in about 2016, I was working for, I know I'm like, I have to go all the way back, like 10 years ago.
Let's go back.
Let's go all the way back.
There's like a pre-COVID time. And it's really funny. Let me interrupt you real quick on this. You know how someone's legit in the space is if they started like pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like,
how
did this happen? So in 2016, I got married that year, and I remember being in our kitchen in our tiny little apartment that we had at the time, and I was like, how cool. My husband was making breakfast and like making sausage pancakes, and I was like, how cool would it be for us to have a bed and breakfast someday where like I'll handle the hospitality and the hosting, and you can handle making breakfast for everyone, and wouldn't that be so fun? And he was like, I don't know about that. But we knew that real estate investing was going to be an important part of our journey. And at the time, we both had W-2 jobs. I was working in the fashion industry, and that's kind of where my entrepreneurial journey started, because I was working with a small local boutique here. I helped them open a second location. I did their branding, their marketing, their buying. I wore a lot of different hats for them. But one of the things that we started doing was working with influencers. And I was like, hang on, we are sending people free clothes and paying them to post on Instagram, which at the time was just like very curated Instagram photos. It was not reels. It wasn't carousel posts. Like it was just the most dialed down, watered down version of Instagram possible. Right. And I was like, I think I can do this. So I actually created my first brand called Trendy and Indie. And I'm from Indianapolis, so that's where that brand came from. And so I started as a fashion, beauty, and travel influencer. And through that journey, I had the opportunity to work with hundreds of different incredible brands. In the travel space, I had the opportunity to work with 25 Hours Hotels in Europe, with the Lark Hotel Group out in Nantucket, with Andaz on Wall Street, and then also in Napa Valley, the Bottleworks Hotels here in Indy, like so many awesome collaborations. And in 2018, I had the opportunity to attend New York Fashion Week, do a partnership with Andaz on Wall Street, and attend some runway shows, which was super cool because my whole background was in the fashion industry up until that point. And I was sitting at a fashion show during New York Fashion Week, like living the dream. And I was like, I'm living a dream, but I'm not sure that it's my dream anymore. And I knew that one of the ways that I could help brands, because one of the questions that I would ask when I had these partnerships with fashion, beauty, and travel companies was like, why should I choose you? Why is someone choosing to book a stay with you? Why is someone choosing to buy these jeans from you versus the other 83 million online boutiques, right? Like, why you? And I was met with a lot of really poor answers, to be honest. And that's where I was like, hang on, no one really understands their brand and how they are emotionally connecting to their audiences in a powerful way. And I can solve that gap. So in 2018, I started to pivot what I was doing as an influencer into our agency, the Weber Co. And so we developed the branding and marketing agency. I did 12-month coaching programs. I helped a lot of different entrepreneurs in various different industries scale from 6 to 7 figures. And that was awesome. And every mentor was like, Steph, you need to pick a niche. Like you need to find something that you can niche down into, because you're trying to speak to e-com businesses and service-based businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of all over. And I was like, I hear you. I'm not ready to do that yet. I haven't found, I'm not going to go back to the fashion industry. That's not my niche. So I've got to figure out what that's really going to look like. 2023 rolls around and I'm 8 months pregnant with our second baby. And I decide that that is the best time for us to get into short term rentals. And my husband's like, you've lost your mind at this point. And so we are touring houses in Indianapolis. We decided to start our co hosting business at that time. And right around then, when we started that co hosting business, I posted on Instagram and I was like, we want to have all of these properties in these different locations. Here's what we want to do with our co hosting business. And also, here's this big dream. We want to have this piece of land somewhere where we can have multiple units and it will be like adult summer camp vibes. And when I wrote that, Kenny, I was like, this is a 10-year from now plan. And that opportunity presented itself in 7 weeks.
Mm,
And that is like the rush of our short-term rental and micro resort journey and getting into this space. It happened very quickly. But in 2023, when I got into this industry, I was like, this is the niche that every mentor has told me that I need to really focus on. So we took the Weber Co. and pivoted our branding and marketing agency specifically in the hospitality niche and industry. We have our co-hosting business, which we scaled to 6 figures in 12 months with a newborn and a toddler. And that was insane. And also built a micro resort in that time. Like it was wild. So
yeah.
that is the like short version of a long journey, but here we are.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's really fascinating. First question I have for you actually. Where do you live in Indianapolis now?
I do. Yes.
Where in Indianapolis do you live?
So we're out on the east side, but we're getting ready to move into a camper for the next year. So I'm like, we're here right now, but we are getting ready to do camper life for the next year and travel around the states.
Are you like east side, like you're like Fishers, like the nice side?
Yep,
Okay.
yep,
All
yep,
right.
yep,
Okay.
right in that area.
All right. I did a summer in Indianapolis in college of door-to-door pest control sales. So I learned,
Stop it.
yes,
That's awesome. I
I
love
learned,
that.
yeah, that I'm convinced, like I grew up in Georgia. I'm convinced the Indy 500 is the biggest redneck fest I've ever seen in my life. Like just
You know
all
what?
the people out there like
Yeah.
tailgating like the night before and everything. And I've been to college football games. Like I know like no, like the Indy 500 is on another level. There's literally like a hardcore rock band that's playing like in the in the center of the entire
Mhm.
track. Like there's a concert going on and a race going. It's just it is insane the amount of people and the types of people you'll find there. But anyway, sorry, that popped just good memories from I did when did I do that? 2015. So yeah.
I love that for you. Well, you
Anyway.
know what? Honestly, like I just talked about this on my Instagram. The Indy 500, I think, is actually one of the best hospitality examples there is because of what they do here in the city. I mean, the Indy 500 is yes, like one of the I think it's like it's called the greatest spectacle in racing, but it is the single largest sporting event, single day sporting event in the world. And the month of Indy or the month of May here in Indy, it's a whole event. And so there's all of these different things that they do leading up to it. But when you're from here and you go to the race every year, there's so much tradition and history around it. And it's just like it's a good example of hospitality. But like to your point, yeah, it's fun times. They have a good time out at the Snake Pit, which is what you were referencing. And there's like a concert legitimately happening during the race. It's wild, but it's a good time.
I just remember so when we did, yeah, you're all the things you're describing about Indianapolis, the month of May, the week of Indy. Oh my gosh, it is just insanity there.
Yep.
It was so much fun being a visitor, and I just remember like getting the biggest like turkey leg of my life, like at the end. That was anyway, good stuff. But okay, all right, let's talk about branding and STR. So you do so focusing on what you did with how you work with the modeling agencies and everything and branding, and then you started helping all these people in different businesses. How did you take that information and bring it down into short-term rentals? Because
Yeah.
hospitality, I don't know, this is probably more of a softball question, but it's true. But like it's interesting. How did you take all of this and go like this applies to short-term rentals and this is how it applies?
Yeah. So the process of branding, Kenny, is largely the same about no matter what industry you're in. But the important thing to understand about branding, a lot of people still think about branding as your visuals, like your fonts, your logos, and your colors. And so when we hear branding, I think that that still is pretty common to think, oh, immediately the visuals.
Yep.
But branding is about how you're perceived in the market. It's about the emotional connection that you have to your customer. And brand is where trust is built. And if we don't have trust, our customers, our guests are not booking with us, customers are not buying from us. And so we have to make sure that we are so clear on the story that we're creating, on how what are those emotional touch points and those emotional connection pieces that we have with our audiences, and how are we crafting the experience, the product, etc. for them. So I was really clear in the fashion industry of going, okay, why is this boutique different than the others? How do we differentiate ourselves? What's the story that we're trying to tell? How are we trying to empower the girls who are coming? It was a prom dress boutique initially, and then it expanded into everyday women's wear. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
how are we empowering these girls who are coming in to buy their prom dresses? And what's the experience that we're providing to them? And like, what does the whole process look like when they walk into our store? How do they experience? Raylan's was the name of the brand. And so
Mm,
in understanding that process and then being able to take it and implement it, and just understanding what branding is at its core too, and your ability to be able to communicate that brand to your direct target audience. And I think that's the other important piece of branding. Oftentimes, especially in the short-term rental industry, I start talking to owners and it's like, well, we're for everyone. Like anyone can come and stay
mhm.
here and
Yep.
anyone can come and be a part of this. And I'm like, when you are for everyone, you are for no one.
Yep.
So it's really important to make sure that your brand should be designed to both attract your most ideal target audience and repel those that the brand is not designed for. So to give
Mm,
an example of this, we built the Cabins on the Cumberland brand, and we had to build that brand before we ever even had physical structures. So we had raw land to work with, and we had to develop, what is Cabins on the Cumberland going to be? Who is it going to be for? Who are we going to serve? What experience are they going to have with us? What's that emotional connection that we're really building and creating with our guests who are going to come and stay with us? And we had to then sell that vision to a bank to get funding for that project to be able to bring that to life, right? So we knew that Cabins on the Cumberland was for a largely a family of four. We know that both parents are working in some capacity. We know that kids are typically later elementary school, headed into middle school. They're almost to that point where their parents are way too cool for them. And the parents are just like hanging on to every moment that they get because they realize that time is so fleeting with their kids. And they're like, we just want all of the traditions and we want to have that. So they're really like grasping onto that. But we understood who that person was. The McCarthy family is what we call them. And we give them a name, like we personify them so that we can craft a narrative and messaging around them. We came up with the tagline, family traditions start here. We're very family oriented, but we were also very clear about what we were not. These are not luxury cabin stays.
mm.
It is not going to be, we never use the term luxury to describe the experience that we have. We are out in nature, we are in the woods. So we are clear with our guests on what we are and what we are not.
Can
And
we
that's so
pause
important.
for I wanna
Yes,
pause for a
please.
second. I have to say this, and I think you'll agree with me. I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, but, like, not everything is luxury.
Not. That is the honestly, Kenny, it is the most overused term in hospitality, in my opinion. It kills me. Yeah, I agree
Oh
with
my
you.
god goodness, like, I can't, like, I see it all the time, and I'm like, "Your property's not luxury." And they're like, "Well, like, what would make it luxury?" And I'm like, everything, change everything. Like, this is not luxury. Like, it's
Start over.
nice, it's
Yeah,
comfortable looking, it's clean, the 3 C's, cute, comfortable, and clean, but it's not luxury.
that is so true. That's
Oh,
I'm so glad you brought that up because it is one of the most overused terms in hospitality for sure.
that
And
made
it's
me
not also
cozy.
I, like, don't think it's a good descriptor of what you provide.
Sure.
It's like, what does that even mean?
Right, right. And everyone has,
So,
like, a different definition of it, and so we think, like, slapping labels on things will automatically make it that thing, you know?
yeah, we do.
And we're like, you're forcing, like, a square peg in a round hole, but anyway, alright. So I wanted to ask you, this question kept popping up. You answered it in different bite-sized pieces, which I like, but I want you to, like, give it a full punch, swing and a punch and a knockdown, alright? So, why should STR owners, they have Airbnb, they have VRBO. Why do we even need to care about branding?
I often hear clients who will say, Steph, we have guests and they just went back to Airbnb to book. And we have our direct site. We built the site, we did the thing, and we told them about it when they stayed with us at our property. But then we saw their reservation for the next year and they went back to Airbnb to book instead of our direct site. And I always have to remind owners a couple of different things, but this is where branding and marketing go hand in hand. Number one, Airbnb has done a phenomenal job at building their brand. So much so that one of the things when I present at conferences, I'll say, "How many of you are Airbnb owners?" The whole room stands up. And
Mm,
I'm like, "You are all liars. You do not own Airbnbs. You own short term rentals." But
yeah.
we've given so much power to a distribution platform that we have no control over and no ownership over. And again, kudos to Airbnb. But when I hear people say, "Oh, Airbnb markets for me," I'm like, let's be very clear that Airbnb is not marketing for you. They are marketing for their business and their brand, and they are owning your guest experience because your guest is getting emails from Airbnb to go book at other places. That's exactly what's happening. So be mindful of that, right? So Airbnb and VRBO, they've done a good job at building their brands. The guests trust them. They've built that trust there. They are constantly in their guest's mind with email marketing, with social media marketing, with ads, whatever it may be. And so when I hear owners say, "Oh, we had the direct booking site in our property, like scan this QR code to book your next stay with us," and that's the only time they've ever heard from you, they're not going to trust your brand enough. They're not remembering. They remember, "Oh, remember that house that we booked on Airbnb? Remember that Airbnb where we stayed?" You are responsible as the short-term rental owner, boutique hotel owner, etc., for making sure that your guests understand your brand outside of the platform where they booked. And you do that by making sure that your brand stays with them so that they have brand recognition and brand recall when they're ready to make that next vacation decision. But you have to do that in a way where you're distributing your brand through social, through email marketing, through paid ads, potentially through influencer marketing, whatever it may be. So it's like brand is at the top, where we have to make sure that we've built that. We have clear and consistent messaging. We're telling the same stories over and over again. We have a visual cohesiveness throughout the brand, and we are distributing that throughout the marketing mediums where we can reach our target audiences.
This is really, really good. I definitely should have you on for another episode in the future because there's so many different ways we can take so many different things that I'm like, man, let's talk about this more. Let's talk about that. But what I wanted to do, and we didn't even start with this, it's fine, it's cool. I wanted to talk about what you did for me because
Mhm.
I was shocked at the quality and also the all the things that like the details of the branding project for the hotel that you did for us. And for those listening, like Steph literally like went through and she did all the branding. Maybe one day when the site's up and everything, I don't know. This will come out in the next few weeks, and so things will kind of be there, and people can check it out at lacortehotel.com. But you're gonna see the logos, the font types, the coloring, everything that is there is from Steph. And I want to dive into this a little bit and talk about your process, especially for the hotel, how you approached it, and then I'll kind of pick your brain on a few of the details from there. But let's start out when you're looking. We'll start with the hotel in particular. When you were coming up with branding and things, what's your approach? How did you start and how did you land on where you ended up?
Yeah. So, Kenny, the process that you walk through is what we call our branded and booked method. And for us, that really starts with understanding. One of the first questions I always ask our clients is, what is your vision for this space? Because I want to align in helping you bring your vision to life. And we're going to do that through the power of your brand. So, we need to understand, what is that vision first? What is it that you're working to bring to life? Once we kind of understand that, then we start diving into the details. We're going to do market research. We want to understand location. One thing that was really important for us in this process with you, this property is not located like right in the French corner or right in the French Quarter. It's kind of like outside of the French Quarter. So we wanted to be clear about how we were positioning and what that was going to look like. We also wanted to be clear about the specific type of traveler that we were attracting to this property. Obviously, a lot of us know New Orleans as like Mardi Gras and like the crazy parties and Bourbon Street and all the things, right? But this property is not serving that demographic of the people who are like raging on Bourbon Street 2 or
Yeah.
3 a.m., right? That's not the demographic for this hotel. And so we created the cultured New Orleans traveler. And this is a traveler that deeply appreciates the live jazz music that they're going to hear as they walk through the streets. They appreciate all of the little coffee shops and the bakeries that they can pop in and out of. They appreciate the cultural experience that New Orleans provides to them. And so we wanted to bring that, a part of that essence, into the hotel as a whole. And we wanted to be clear about speaking to that specific target audience. So once we kind of understand what's the vision, we outline those target audiences and we understand who they are, why they're traveling, kind of where they're at in their life. That was another part, building out this specific couple We know that they may have kids, and if they do, they're probably older kids. So they're in this season of life of kind of like rediscovering who they are with their older kids, and their kids are going off and doing things, and they're like, "Wait, who are we? Let's get back to kind of like the things that we enjoy and experience without our kids, of just like who we are as a couple," right?
Yep.
And so those were all things that we were taking into account there. Once we understand who that target audience is, then we move into all of the brand strategy. And that is all of your core messaging components. Of course, it's like your mission, vision, one liners, core values, and all of those, and the process that we walk through there. What I explain to clients is that this process is not only important for your guests and to be able to communicate with them, it's important for your internal team. So I
Mm,
know, Kenny, that you obviously have Dawn and Greg who are going to be managing. Like, this brand strategy is important for them because it's going to be how they live this out through all of their guest messaging, through how they interact with guests and how they guide their team to interact with guests, right? So, and front desk staff. I mean, anyone that has their hands on the guest experience should be intimately connected to the brand and the brand strategy. And once we understand that strategy, and we do a little bit of market analysis and competitive analysis within that too, of going, okay, how are other hotels in this space positioning themselves? What do their visuals look like? And how are we really differentiating? So that helps us to be able to set you apart as well. Once we do all of that work, then we go into the visuals. You guys notice how it took me like, I don't know, 5 minutes before I ever even started talking about the brand visuals? And I think that that's so important because we do strategy backed visuals, not just like, here's what we think it should be, but like based on target audience, based on the market analysis that we've done, based on all of the brand strategy we've put together. This is the visual representation of the brand. So
yeah.
that's, in a nutshell, the short version of our process.
Yeah, well, what was interesting is like one thing I caught just is a couple like little things throughout. I mean, guys, like she sent me it was like 31 or 32. I don't want to cut it. It was long. It was like this whole presentation of all the branding and things to do and things not to do, which I thought was interesting too. And one of the things that I caught on there that was really fascinating, so the guest avatars were incredibly specific. I mean,
Mhm.
there was even like, and it probably AI generated, but like a stock photo of like a couple, like several different like avatars, like
Yep.
their pictures, where they're from, their wealth, like their story, like what they're looking for. Not just like, oh, it's, wealthy Wendy or whatever. It's like, no, this is who they are and why they would be here. And this is how you're going to take care of them. It was very detailed. And then even down to the logos, there wasn't just like, here's the logo for the hotel. There's like 6 or 7 different types of logos that not ones that it would be used in particular places. Like there's submarks and I wasn't thinking about any of this stuff, until I'm like creating signage and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to need this. And I'm like, well, they made it for me. All right, like that's
I
where I'm
have
going to
it.
use this. Or like branding, the towels. Like that's not going to be the normal like title logo. It's going to be a different, maybe the submarker or one of the other ones. Like there was just it was just so much in detail and depth that when it came time to, when I'm learning from other, hoteliers for branding purposes, I mean, this is what was required. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. Now, the question I have though for you, Steph, is do you feel like for short-term rentals that they should be following the same branding principles as you would for a boutique hotel?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Kenny. I think there are differences depending on how you are hosting. I'm going to give you examples here. So we have our co-hosting business, which is hosted by the Webers. All of our properties that we co-host and the one that we owned here in Indianapolis live underneath that brand. So they may have
Mm,
a name, but everything that you're going to see in one of our hosted by the Webers properties is our hosted by the Webers brand.
yeah.
So sometimes I'm talking to clients in the short-term rental space and it's like, well, we've got properties in multiple markets, or we also co-host and we do all of these things. And it's like, well, I am a big proponent of not diluting and really streamlining as much as we possibly can. So I had a short-term rental owner come to me one time and she was like, I have 7 Instagram accounts. And I was like, why? For 7 different properties. And some of them are in overlapping markets. And I'm like, pause.
Yeah.
Full stop right now. Because first of all, if you are attracting guests, like let's say that you have 4 properties in the Smokies and you have 4 different Instagram accounts, your guest is going to be so confused when you try to start cross promoting those other properties. If they come to one property with you and have a great experience, why would they not want to visit one of the other three, or maybe all of the other three if they come to the Smokies every year, which so many people do, right?
Yep.
So when you don't streamline your brand efforts, you create confusion, and a confused mind always says no, and they always go back to Airbnb.
Hmm.
So we want to make sure that it's really dialed in terms of like, okay, what does that umbrella brand look like, and does the umbrella brand make sense? Another example here, a different example. I have clients who have a really killer property in Bethel, Maine. I think you may have helped them. It's called Altitude 22. And then they also have a property in Sedona called Samaya Sedona. Those two properties stand on their own. They have independent brands. We did not build an umbrella brand for them. And that was a very intentional decision because of the experience, because of their location, because of how they are continuing to expand their portfolio. Now, something that they may do is build an umbrella brand of like, these are our properties. And if you want to invest with us and be a partner with us, they've created that sort of investment umbrella brand. But the properties are going to stand on their own and kind of have their own unique brands and their unique marketing strategies as well to target their specific audiences. When we're talking about Bethel, Maine, it's like multi-generational families and the family reunions and the like big group ski weekends. And when we're talking about Sedona, it's like groups of couples that are coming from the Bay Area to the Sedona market for this like reset
Hmm.
weekend retreat. You know what I mean? It's very different
Healing
experiences.
retreat. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So we were
Very
like, okay,
specific.
we've got to be clear about what that looks like. So sometimes I get the question like, do I need a brand for every property? And I'm like, it totally depends on your vision, on your goals, and on what you're trying to do. But if you are a co-host, like really think through what does the process look like to build out our co-hosting brand, have your properties underneath that. If you have multiple properties across various different markets, the umbrella brand may make sense and you bring properties under that. Or if you have wildly unique properties and you're going to spend the time to dive into the marketing efforts, okay, great. Then you could create separate brands. So dependent.
From a number standpoint, in my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't know, you're stuff. It's fine. You feel different, but like from a number standpoint, I think it makes sense to separate brands if you can. You said time, and time is money in my
Yeah.
head. And so
Yep.
like if you're making big money, then
Hmm.
it makes, and another key thing you said there too, experience, like a unique property. So
Yeah.
like if you have a big property, you're hosting 16 plus, 16 or more, and you have the time and the money to be able to do the marketing, then most likely you should be separating those out because they are incredibly different avatars. I mean, we have some of the big properties we have, Steph. Like I have one in Kentucky that sleeps like 28. Our one in Flagstaff, we just got approved to sleep 32. The one in Texas, we just increased from 22 to 27. And I mean, all these properties, I have one in Asheville, but only sleep 16, but but they're all like big properties, but they're all wildly unique. And you're
Hmm.
right, they attract a different guest avatar and the
Hmm.
amenities are completely different for the most part, kind of. I mean, there's some that are the same, they overlap, like all have hot tubs and pools and whatever. But like there are certain things that are more targeted in certain markets than others. And we, the how we market those is going to be independent of each other. But like you said, the umbrella company, I think that ties it all in.
Yep.
It also makes it sellable in the future if you wanted to sell the business,
Yep.
because you're not going to
It
sell,
does.
like, sure, you could sell the property, and that's what a lot of people think of. But in reality, is if you build something, especially in vacation markets, that's consistent, you might be able to sell an entire portfolio if you've got it branded correctly.
Yep.
So,
And this is I love that you brought this up because I was just having this conversation with my good friend Zoe Berghoff, and some of you who are listening to this may follow Zoe, but she largely her portfolio is largely in one area in Colorado. I think it's like Glenwood Springs or something
mhm,
like that out in Colorado. And they got their start in 2020 or 2019 with a yurt, and they have just exploded. And we recently had a conversation and she was like, "I hadn't thought about this until now, but I could literally create our brand and I could sell off our entire portfolio of properties. And now I'm not just selling the real estate, I'm selling a business asset." But that's only possible if you have those assets, right? If you
yeah.
have the brand, if you have the website, the email list, the social media profiles. And there's plenty of examples in this industry of people who have done this and have done it very well. And then they're valued much higher because they're selling a hospitality business, not just a real estate asset. And let's be very clear and remember that we cannot sell Airbnb listings. We can
Mhm.
only sell the real estates. This is why I'm like, the brand is so important to tie into this too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good call out. We're so focused on the residential appreciation side, the residential, asset side being, appraising based on real estate comps near you, that for those of us who are buying bigger properties, or those who are striving to buy bigger assets, aren't thinking about it like long term, like this is going to be a commercial play. But with
Mhm.
that in mind, and I've always said this, is we have to look at the hotel industry and what they're doing, because short-term rentals are professionalizing just like the hotels are.
Mhm.
And you're going to see a lot of like the branding, and even just stuff like, I'm sure you've seen like the evolution of the design process
Mhm.
in the last like 3 years. It's just like
Yep.
everyone's doing professional designing, designs
Mhm.
now, and or has to. If you want a successful short-term rental, it has to be professionally designed. You can't like,
Mhm.
you can't just throw in, Facebook Marketplace furniture and, have a clean place to stay. Like that's not going to make money.
Yeah.
So it's this professionalization of the space, and we need to think about it almost in commercial terms. So,
100%. And I love that you brought up the design side of things because this is another question I get. Do I design first or brand first? Or do I do them both together? Or like, how does that process impact one
that
another?
is a good
And
question. Tell us
yeah,
the answer, because I need to
yeah,
know.
yeah. So I've done it both ways. I've done it where design is totally done, like Kenny in your case, right?
Mhm.
Design was totally done for the hotel. And so we were taking a look at design and we had to keep that in mind as we were going throughout the
Yeah.
visual brand process, which was totally fine. I do prefer to be branding first and then design, or to be branding and working hand in hand with designers, right?
Mhm.
Like right now I have an awesome project I'm working on in Cooperstown, New York, and it is for a more like motel hotel kind of inn style property. It's really cool. And I'm working hand in hand with Paige Hayes and her team on the design there, but
Oh,
we're doing the branding
I know
and
the
we're working
property.
together.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
fun. It's cool to be able to see that, and Paige is like, "Wow, the branding process that you guys are walking through from the design perspective, first of all, there's like so many pieces that are like, wow, this just goes hand in hand and it all makes sense. But it's also supportive in us being like, hey, we wanted to make sure that we have this specific touch point inside each room. Can you guys make sure that you design the space to really be able to fit this specific experience, right? Or to make sure that we're
Yeah.
incorporating this in some way. So that is my preference, but it doesn't always happen that way, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, 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 that's good. Yeah, yeah, and you came in very flexible. I don't know how hard it was, or I first off, let me call out something real quick. I thought you came up with the best tagline, and then I had to shoot it down because of the name. But so for the hotel, everyone listening, she came up with a tagline. What was it? New Orleans Chez Vous, or
Chez Vous, New Orleans.
Chez Vous, New Orleans. I got it
Yeah,
backwards. Which Chez Vous is your home, New Orleans. Like it's a French
yeah.
thing. But since we actually came up with an Italian name for the hotel for historical reasons, and some other things, we had to change it to
Where New Orleans is experienced.
when New Orleans experience. I need to memorize it and beat it in
It's
my
okay, I've
brain,
got you,
but
Kenny.
yeah,
No
it's,
worries.
it's written down somewhere. But anyway, long story short, no, I just thought that was really cool, like that because it did like both taglines are great. The first one, the Chez Vous New Orleans, I was like, dang, that's good.
Yeah, it is. I know that was a big that and you guys like what can I love that you're bringing this up, Kenny, because this is like a really important thing to kind of keep in mind as you guys go through the process. And as we developed the name and we were like, the name is Italian with the French tagline, like my brain couldn't compute the two together. And I was like, I don't think this is working, but let's come up with something that's really powerful that still speaks to the target audience and makes sense. Like, so we were like, where New Orleans is experience. Like, this is the hotel. If you want to experience what New Orleans is all about, this is where you stay. And that's inherently what we're saying within that tagline. The tagline is honestly one of the most difficult pieces in every project to come up with because it's that
Mhm.
thing that, like, I often use the example from Disney, like Disney, most magical place on earth. We know that tagline. When we say that tagline, we can feel it. If you're not a Disney fan, it's okay. Like, I will forgive you. I am. And we go every year, multiple times a year. But it is one of those pieces that like it has to create memorization, right? Like it has to be
Mhm.
memorable in some capacity so that people feel connected to the brand, they can recall the brand. It's a whole process and like the psychology behind that. And like what is Disney saying when they say most magical place on earth? There's a connotation, there's a perceived level of value that's inside that tagline
Yep.
subconsciously, whether we know it or not.
Yep. Yep, it's so true. Yeah, it's that's one of the things. It's like helping you have to get everybody on the same page that's on your team. With short-term
Mhm.
rentals, it's like, okay, I'm running it myself, and so it's like me or if you have a co-host or whatever, but like the reality is like it is truly the professionalization of the services that elevate the short-term rental and the type of returns you can get. I mean,
Yeah,
it's going that way, guys.
it
Embrace
is.
embrace it, and
To
you'll be
use
ahead of
another
everyone.
example of that, Kenny, we even though they're short-term rentals, we go through with our cleaning team. Mission, vision, and core values are always our 3 that I'm walking through with our
Mm,
cleaning team and our differentiating factors, and I'm gonna give an example of this. One of our core values for Hosted by the Webbers that feeds over into cabins on the Cumberland is thoughtful hospitality, and one of my questions with clients is always, "Okay, if these are our core values, how do we live those core values out? How do we bring those to life?" And so, thoughtful hospitality for us means making sure that the guests feel like we thought about their stay before they ever even set foot in the door. So, how do we actually operate that and act that out? Number one, we have fire pits. So, we provide some more sticks and we provide a DIY fire starter kit. And on our dryers, we have a QR code that says, like, save your lint and scan this QR code to make your DIY fire starter kit. And then we provide all of those things inside the cabin. So now we've created a guest experience, but it's also thoughtful. We've thought about like, you're going to want to have a fire here
yeah,
and you're going to need the things to be able to do that. We also provide the little things like we have hair ties because I always forget hair ties when I'm on vacation and I want to have those there. We provide toothbrushes for our guests. And the comments that we get in our reviews always go back to this. We may not hear about the hot tubs, we may not hear about the Vero saunas, but you want to know what we do hear about? This host had things in this property that we didn't even think about. Like, I didn't even know I was going to need that toothbrush at 10 p.m. because I forgot mine. And
right.
everything is 30 minutes away, and DoorDash does not exist. So we go through all of that with our cleaning teams and with anyone who has their hands on helping to support the guest experience, which is like that's down to your maintenance team members. And so this is so important to make sure that when you are thinking through your brand, you're going, how do we actually live that brand out? Because it's one thing to have it on I looked at your slides. I have them pulled up right over here. So 69, you had a 69-page document that was sent to you,
Oh,
Kenny. And
wow,
that's
I
great.
cut you short by 30. I'm
It's
so
okay. It's
sorry.
okay. No, it's fine. But when you have this, it's great to have it on paper. It has to be implemented throughout
Yeah,
every potential touch point the guest has with you and throughout everyone who has their hands on that guest experience.
that's really powerful. I was thinking one of the things that you can use this for other an idea that we found successful. We don't tell guests this, but we have free ice cream sandwich bar. So we have like a little fridge and our freezer. It's one of like those clear like see-through ones, and then we have
Uh-huh.
like a little sign that says like free ice cream. Or it's like neon, like those little crappy signs that everyone's hanging up in their Airbnbs and their game rooms that say "Game On." This one says free ice cream though. so and
That's
and
better.
and I can't tell you how many messages and even reviews like people mention the ice cream sandwiches. Like we literally go buy one of those big boxes from Costco, the cheap like $1 ice cream. I mean, they're cheaper when you buy them in bulk. And we just load it up,
Yeah.
and people like go to town on them and they rave about it.
Mhm.
And it's one of the most mentioned things at the property, beyond some of the particular amenities, like big amenities that you were saying that you think people would talk about all the time. And it's just that one extra thing that people appreciate, that we're just kind of leveraging, like, hey, here's a snack bag or whatever that people enjoy, or s'mores kit. And so yeah.
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 You may agree or disagree with this, but I'm kind of like, I feel like those big amenities that you can put ADR in dollars to, and how does
Mhm.
this actually increase that ADR? Those are what get people to the property the first time. But the thing that keeps people coming back are your ice cream bar example, right?
The
Like that's what
experience,
keeps,
yeah.
yeah, it's the experience. That's what keeps your guests coming back. That's what makes them loyal to you. And if you're doing enough to get your brand in front of them, they're going to rebook with you. We just had this happen for the cabins. This guest booked with us last year on Airbnb. She just booked again and did so directly. And her message to us was like, we had the best time with you guys last year, and we are so excited to do our family vacation with you all again. And,
Yep.
and we have a different experience now because all of our amenity spaces are done at the cabins. But that speaks to we got her on our email list and we've been sending her our emails this whole time and we've stayed in front of her. So she didn't go back to Airbnb to book. She booked directly with us and is coming back.
Yeah. People are creatures of habit,
Mhm.
right? Sure, you have people who are like, I want to go to a new place, every single time, but people go for consistency. I mean, Think about any of the listeners here, like, your family, and where did you guys go on vacation every single summer? Like there was a place, right? And so everyone's looking for that place. And if you can create a place that's memorable and really elevates the experience, you've got essentially a lifetime customer. So
100%. And think about how we even travel. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, I'm either flying Southwest or I'm flying American Airlines. Like those are one of the two airlines that I'm going to fly. And I'm so loyal to them. A little less so now with Southwest, now that my two bags don't fly free anymore. But
well,
it's
yeah,
fine.
they have like assigned seats. They're just like everybody
Yeah,
else.
I know. I
They
know. I
are
was like,
nicer
"Ooh."
though. They're much nicer than American. I feel like
Yeah.
American's like great value
It
now.
is good value. So if I
Good
have to fly
value.
like a long distance with the whole family, I'm like, okay, this. But like we always use the same
I
rental
feel
car
like Delta,
service.
but yeah.
We always we book, similar hotel brands unless we're doing like boutique. But if we're gonna stay
Yeah.
somewhere just like quick overnight, I'm like, okay, where's the like Holiday Inn Express? Because I know that they're gonna have my amenities, it's gonna be clean, and I'm gonna be in and out. The
You
end,
know what
right?
you're gonna get. Yep.
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 That's
Yep.
so well, man, this was enlightening. Steph, as we're I think this is a good place. As we're wrapping up here, what's the best way if people are interested in having a branding conversation with you and learning more about your services and how you can help them? What's the best way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you guys have been listening to this podcast today, please shoot me a DM on Instagram at the Weber Co. That's the best place to connect with me. It is actually me in my DMs too, so you'll actually be chatting with me.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear from you and just connect, and love to know that you listen to the podcast today. If you want to know more about our services and you want to book a call and you want to chat through kind of where you're at, whether that's with STRs or boutique hotels or hospitality adjacent services, we're happy to do that. And you can head to theweberco.com to check out everything that we do and see some of our work and book a call.
This is awesome. And Steph, you at the beginning, you told me you had a podcast. What was the podcast called?
I do. Yep. The podcast is called Branded and Booked. So we launch new
Branded
episodes every
and
week.
booked. Awesome. Yeah, I this has been a treat and a pleasure. I really appreciate you joining. As you can imagine, I'm very analytical. And so a lot of the shows are very much like, here's this is the impact X and Y. And so it is incredibly I think it's great to have someone come on here who is from the maybe other end of the spectrum of equal value, hop in and give their take on it, the color commentary, where I'm just the number commentary.
Hey, you know what? There's direct correlation though, Kenny, for what branding does for ADRs. And
I
I mean, I have
believe it.
data around that.
I'm not arguing any of that. No, there is a ton of value in what you're saying. I think it's good to hear. Basically, what I'm saying is like a lot of people, especially for this podcast, they listen because of it's the numbers. It's not
Yeah.
just like talk, it's numbers. But for a while, numbers are numbers, right? It's like ones
Mhm.
and zeros, it's binary. We need to have color. We need to have the understand, because we are selling an experience. We're
Hmm.
not selling, heads and beds. And I think
Totally.
people like what you do and what you talk about and, how you help people. I think that has to be broadcasted more in our industry. So anyway,
Thanks, Kenny. I
yeah.
love that. So good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you everybody for listening. And we will see you on another episode of Cashflow Positive.